Hello y'all and welcome back. So in this video, in preparation for a deeper discussion of the problem of free will versus determinism, I just want to define a few terms. So the first terms that I want to define are metaphysics and epistemology. These are the two disciplines that we're engaged in here. Metaphysics is the study of what is, what exists, what is real. So existence of God is a metaphysical question, free will versus determinism is a metaphysical question, the existence of souls is a metaphysical question. Epistemology is the study of knowledge, how and what we know. So can you know anything for sure is an epistemological question. Is there such a thing as absolute truth that applies to everybody at all times? And also, do you need God to explain everything, or does science explain everything without recourse to God? These are all epistemological questions. Now, whenever you make a metaphysical claim, or almost any time you make a metaphysical claim, you're also making an epistemological claim. You see, because when you claim that something exists, you're claiming automatically to know that that thing exists. So you're making a metaphysical claim, but then also a knowledge claim. So that's the overall discipline in which we're engaged. Now, we're looking here at the problem of free will versus determinism, and the question, I always think it's important to isolate the question that we're trying to answer, is do we have free will, or are all events, including human action, ultimately determined by causes external to the will? So determinism is the view, opposite of the free will view, that all events, including human action, are ultimately determined by causes external to the will. All right, so we've defined metaphysics, epistemology, and determinism. What is the will? Well, the will I define as the faculty that decides on and initiates action. So there are some things that you're doing now that you're not willing or choosing to do. You're exerting downward pressure on the ground, you're blinking, you're breathing, a few other things that are things that you're doing but you're not willing and choosing to do. But everything that you choose to do, for instance, me choosing to sit here and choosing to speak and choosing to raise my hand to illustrate the point. I do this a lot. It's a really boring illustration, but you get the idea. Those are all things that I will to do, and the faculty that decides to do that and initiates that action, the movement of my limbs, that is the will. Now, in the case of determinism, that all events, including human action, are ultimately determined by causes external to the will, what are these causes external to the will that are determining this? Well, the way that you answer that is going to depend on your underlying metaphysics, in other words, what you think exists. And while there are a number of different metaphysical positions, it's my contention, my sort of, I guess you can say, kind of educated assertion, my educated view, that really at the end of the day there are only two views. And I'm going to call these views naturalism and supernaturalism. Now, naturalism is the idea that there is nothing supernatural. So that's the first part of it. There's a negative part and a positive part to this definition. There's nothing supernatural. So, here are some things that a naturalist does not believe in. God, that's the big one. Angels, demons, souls, spirits, heaven, hell, miracles, fairies, witches, vampires, zombies. I suppose that certain naturalists would not believe in numbers that exist separate from enumerated collections of things, right? Anything that feels supernatural, a naturalist is not going to believe in these things. Now, it's not just a negative view, though. It is a view about how you do explain things, what does exist. So the first part of the view is that nothing supernatural exists. The second part of the view is that science can, in principle, explain all of reality. So what you need to explain reality is the physical sciences and nothing else. Because everything that's real can be explained by the physical sciences. If it can't be explained by the physical sciences, that's a sign that you should be suspicious of it, that it's not actually real. So I've heard plenty of naturalists say, I don't have a religion, but if I had to pick a religion, I would say that my religion is science. I believe whatever science tells me. That's my final authority. So that's naturalism. Now, naturalism is often kind of used used interchangeably, used synonymously, I should say, with atheism, and for good reason. Most naturalists are atheists and vice versa, although you can see that, strictly speaking, naturalism is a much stronger view than atheism. You could be an atheist and still believe in some supernatural things. I've certainly met people who hold this position, but they're very rare. But the opposite of naturalism, I'm going to say, is not theism as it's often presented, but I'm going to say supernaturalism. So supernaturalism defined here as the view that something supernatural exists. So if you're a supernaturalist, you believe that the physical sciences can explain a lot of reality, but they do not and cannot explain all of it. So something supernatural exists, whether that's God or souls or spirits or angels or demons or miracles or witches or something like that. Something supernatural exists. The physical sciences can't explain absolutely everything. There's some room for something else. So that is supernaturalism. Now, if you are a supernaturalist, you have to face the problem of free will and determinism in a particular way. And if you're a naturalist, you have to face it in another particular way. So if you're a supernaturalist, you face the problem of free will versus determinism via God, and specifically the doctrine of divine sovereignty. So sovereignty is the doctrine that God is completely in control. He is sovereign. He's the king of the world. God controls everything. But if God controls everything, how can you be free? Well, we're going to look at the answer to that question in the next video. But in this video, I just wanted to define our terms: metaphysics, epistemology, determinism, will, naturalism, supernaturalism, and divine sovereignty. So now that we've laid the groundwork with some of these terms, we can get into the actual questions and their solutions. Thanks.